Hey there, this is Keenan Fry, and you're watching the Acid Drip. It's been a long time since I've done any kind of art update or anything like that. Um, I am going to do an art update, but I am also going to include in this video a brief studio update. What I'm going to do real quick is show you something, and it just takes a second because I got to unplug it. But I am right now working on my audio interface setup. So I'm going to kind of show you this. So this is my Apollo Twin USB. I got this back in 2016, and I really did not use it all that much. I got it right around December 2015, and then I opened it up 2016 because I needed hardware to run it, and I didn't quite have the hardware. At the time, I only had a laptop, a nice little HP laptop, but it wasn't strong enough to run something like this and to run Pro Tools. It kept crashing whenever I tried to open a Pro Tools file with more than 10 tracks. So if you know anything about Pro Tools, each track is basically a different recording that you work on. And it used to crash horrifically. And now I'm making a mess because I'm messing with my cables. But I've got my new setup going on. And the new setup is this custom tower that I built back in 2020, 2021-ish. I started working on it with a buddy of mine, Nick, who's got a PC repair shop. He also does car repair. He's a pretty handy dude. And if I can get a link from him for his website, I'll put it in the description of this video. But essentially, around 2020, I went to Nick and I asked him to help me build a tower that I could record audio on so I could actually use the interface that I just showed you. And so we built it, and I just unfortunately have not really had the time to sit down and do any recording projects. I do have two KRK Rocket 5s. So KRK is the brand, Rocket 5 is the model. The 5 tells you how big the speaker cone inch is. So it's a 5-inch diameter speaker cone. They're not very big. They're just for like basic monitoring. I am using a pair of cans. They call them cans if they're headsets. I've got two sets, and this is where things are going to get complicated. I've got this set that's made by Zyberia. It's got a nice little internal mic and a nice little preamp. The preamp has a volume switch and a microphone, so that's going to control the output of this microphone. I use this when I'm in school. When I'm in classes, if I want to mute myself, I just roll down the mic power and no one can hear me. So some things that are kind of complicated. This thing has input and output. What that means is the input is me putting into the system, and that's through this microphone, and the output is through these headphones. This is an output only. It's a monitor pair of headphones. So this plugs into the UA Apollo Twin USB, the universal interface that I was showing you, this guy right here. It plugs into this thing. Now, the problem with this thing, it's not so much a problem, it's just a layer of complexity, is that you have this input right here, which is your headphone jack, and then you have this one right here, which is your input for your guitar, which is below line level. So you want to get it to line level, and this thing is a preamp. It boosts the guitar signal to line level, and then you basically output from these four monitor selections right here. You have a line out left, right, and you have two pairs of outputs, so you could run 4 speakers through this. And then this is the universal USB 3 adapter that plugs into the back of my computer. So this right here is what communicates, this box makes it communicate to my computer back and forth. And then this is the power supply right here. Obviously on and off switch, pretty basic. But this is the optical in. And now this optical in is really unique because it allows you to expand the USB bus. So a USB bus is, it's an extension. Well, it's not a USB bus. It would just be called an interface bus. An interface bus is an extension that has more inputs. So I told you this is an input right here. Well, here are two other inputs. These big guys in the back right here, these big black circles right here, are designed for Xlr cables. So XLR are, I got two of them over here made by Mogami. I'm going to just pull those up in just a second if I can get them off the hook. These are not exactly XLR, actually. This is a regular guitar cable made by Mogami. So these are 1/4 inch jacks. But here's an XLR. Yeah, here we go. Okay. I got a rack of cables on the side next to my computer, and I have to just dig out. So these XLRs are 3-pin XLRs. You can see the 3 pins in the middle, right? And then 3 pins on this side for reception. So this is the male and this is the female end. The female end connects into the back end of the interface, and then the male end is for whatever else you're using. This might go into, like, for example, a lapel mic like the Audio-Technicas that I use. Or lately I have a new set of audio equipment that I want to try out, which is a wireless set. But I'll talk about that later. This guy is my guitar cable. So this goes, you got the 90-degree end and then the straight jack end. The straight jack end goes into the interface and the 90-degree goes into the guitar, so that it doesn't get bumped. And if you know anything about guitar input jacks, they tend to break because you end up bumping them with your hand. So you want a 90-degree bend so that you're less likely to bump it and then break your input or your output jack, which is such a pain in the ass because then you have to take the part out and solder a new part in there, and it's just it's a hassle. It's an extra chore to take care of. So anyway, I got my cables and all that set up. I've got the audio interface somewhat set up. I don't actually have a DAW though, so that is a digital audio workstation. So for a while I was using Pro Tools, and I've been thinking about just switching to Reaper, predominantly because it's cheap, it's simple, and like I really don't like Pro Tools. It's fucking expensive. So I think I spent damn near $50 a month for like almost 2 years of subscription plus the actual program itself. I probably spent like $1,000 on my Pro Tools, and I barely used it. And I'm kind of at the point where like I hate the subscription method. I understand why people are moving towards it because it's quarterly income and it reflects well on a company's sort of quarterly income reports, which obviously affects their bottom line when they do their annual reports to, if they're on the stock market, for example, their quarterly income reports reflects their stock values. So obviously companies like Adobe have moved towards that. Pro Tools have moved towards that. A lot of companies have moved towards these subscription-based models, and I get why, but I just don't like it because they nickel and dime you. So the alternative is to get Reaper, which is $50. People talk a lot of shit about Reaper, and it's kind of like an ironic thing because people talk shit about Reaper and they say like, oh, it can't be good because it's so cheap. It's $50. It's like, I'd rather use Pro Tools. It's the industry standard. But I'm really skeptical of that. I don't necessarily think that, more is actually more. And I've become keenly aware of that with the subscription-based model. So with all that out of the way, I've kind of told you what's going on with my studio setup. It is basically set up at this point in time. I'm not really fully ready to do recording, but I have to just pull the trigger on a bunch of interface plugins like drum software. I have to get a drum simulator and a million other pieces of software. We're now going to get into the art update portion of this. So this has just been a hell of a 2-year run. I have not done a whole lot of art in the last 2 years because I've been working, going to school, and then just a hell of a lot of other shit. But I'm going to show you some things I've done. So this is the letter H, and this is a recent letter that I finished. I'm going to bring it up, and we're going to look at it. So I did all of this in Adobe Illustrator. And the next step, so I told you about the audio stuff I'm working on. I do want to eventually record my own album, but that's a ways out. The thing that I'm focusing on right now that's more practical is working on my artwork. So the next step with this is to export this into a model making software. I'm looking into Autodesk, which is a 3D rendering software that allows you to make 3D models. So this right here, this format is an STL. So, or not an STL, sorry, what is it called? Vector. It's vector. What the hell is the term? Not, hang on. Let me look at the, yeah, it's AI, but there's another term for it. It's vector based. SVG. There we go. STL, SVG, they sound the same. This is an SVG, a scale vector graphic. This is an SVG, which can convert to an STL. See, it gets confusing. The STL is different from an SVG. So an SVG is an XY axis. That's it. It's just XY. So that means lateral and horizontal. It's like your basic graph that you use in middle school when you started learning to plot graphs in like pre-algebra. You know, plot on the graph an x-axis coordinate that's 0.2, and then plot on the y-axis point number 3. So you go over 2 and up 3, and that's your plot, right? So it's got an xy coordinate point. So this whole thing is a vector graph, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Show grid. So now you can see the graph grid. It's a giant graph. Like I said, it's kind of simple. But as you zoom in, it kind of subdivides everything. So you can see on here these little red dots are points that exist on this vector graph. And the vector graph gets actually indefinitely smaller. It's just showing you a basic grid, but it actually gets way more complex. I'm not going to get into that. So I've turned the grid off, but you can see that all of those points that were on there are vector dots. So that's the SVG, the scale vector graphic. All of the points on here are on a graph. They're all in a sort of equation where all of the points are at a certain distance from each other. And then a formula is applied, a scaling formula is applied that equilaterally scales the graphic in all directions. So if I do Control All and then I hit the V key, it's going to give me this box. And now I can very neatly shrink it down, and it's tiny. If I hit Control Z, it's back to normal. I'm going to hold the Alt key, use the roller on my mouse to zoom out. I'm going to hold the Shift key again, and I'm going to drag it out. As I hold Shift, it just makes it birubrically scale. That's the term, birubric scaling. Birubric meaning by to, rubric is the format. So this is a birubric format, the format being an XY. So a tri-rubric format is XYZ. We're going to get to that. So this is just XY. It's birubric scaling. It's just going up and down, and it's scaling proportionately. Obviously, I can scale it disproportionately. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So I'm not holding any key down with my left hand, and I'm just going to, scale it disproportionately. It scales wide, and it's not really proportionate anymore. It blows it out. So it scales proportionately is the main thing that matters. So getting back into Autodesk. Autodesk is the program that I'm looking to buy, which is really expensive. It's like $5,000. It's not cheap. So that's the next program I'm looking to buy. It will probably be Autodesk because the quality of the program, the power of the program is really there. There's smaller SVG formatting sort of softwares that you can use, like Cura and others that are kind of cheaper, that some of them are even free. But it's just not as reliable, I think, and it can't handle the processing power. And the reason for that is a lot of those cheaper programs require you to operate from an online server. So you upload your information to a cloud, and then you get to control the program from the cloud. So as you're editing it, it communicates to a server back to you. So there's this lag and delay time, and it's a pain in the ass. If you want to have the desktop version of Autodesk, it's like $5,000. I think there are cheaper subscription-based models, but I'm thinking about just, again, I hate subscriptions because, like, I think one of the subscription-based models is like $300 a month. But if it's $300 a month, you're paying $3,600 a year. After 2 years, you're spending more on subscriptions than just buying the program. And since I'm probably going to be using this for a hell of a lot longer than 2 years, I'd rather just shell out the $5,000 up front and just buy the damn program. The pain in the ass about it is it's $5,000, which I don't have right now. I'm a dirt poor college student. Uh, that's how that goes. So anyway, so there's kind of like a paywall that's holding me back from doing the next thing. A huge amount of my projects are kind of just stuck in limbo because I can't really take the next step because either there's a paywall, there's a learning curve, or just time. You know, I want to spend some time learning how to do drum programming. There's a learning curve, and I have to go find someone who can kind of teach me how to program drums, which means like paying for lessons. I don't mind doing that, but that's more money. That's also more time. I'd like to learn how to work in Autodesk. I think I can probably teach myself the basics, but if I wanted to get deeper into it, I definitely would need a teacher. Autodesk is one of those things where it has a very, very high ceiling. That's something I'm looking forward to getting into. But that's just, that's time and money. And those are just things I don't have while I'm in grad school. So I know I haven't posted too many videos between now and basically 2020. It's been 2 years and it's been just a consistent drought. And I apologize. I haven't forgotten any of these commitments or projects. It's just that I'm in a position where I can't take advantage of them. So I go to this place to get my test prints made. I go to this FedEx that's local to me, and there's a very nice woman named Floria who works there who has always helped me out with my test prints. And I always come in with like a weird request. Can you print at this odd scaling? Can you, cut it to this dimension? Weird custom stuff. And she has always been kind enough to sit there and work it out with me and figure it out. And I've learned so much about like the actual mechanical side of art, which is the printing process. Because there's a lot of people who will go to a third-party online source to print their stuff, and they'll say, make it this big, and then fuck off, you do it. And that's the problem with that is it makes you kind of ignorant. You don't understand how the printing process works. You don't really understand how files are formatted, how printers read different file formats, how color correction happens between RGB and CMYK. CMYK is print, RGB is digital, converting back and forth, and just understanding like how that process works. Taking a print piece of media and digitizing it, that's also like super complicated. People think that you just throw something in a scanner and it's done, but that's really not how it works. It's way more complicated than that. Especially if you want a high quality, high resolution image, you actually don't use a scanner, you go to a photography studio. So, I spent the better part of 5 years teaching myself how to do this stuff. And, from 2014 to 2020, roughly speaking, I was really working on digital media, but especially 2015 when I graduated from San Jose State and I was really transitioning into trying to start my own business, you know, I hardcore dived into digital media. And I'm still doing it. It's just, God, I fucking hate school. I mean, I fucking hate school. So if you're in school and you feel frustrated, remember, you're not the only one. Just stick it out. It sucks sometimes, but you just got to stick it out. So I just don't have the time to do this stuff. What I've been trying to do instead of printing, because I really do want to print, I mean, like, I can't tell you how badly I just want to go and drop like $2,000 on shirts and stickers. And I want to make an alphabet book. That's one of the things I'm trying to do. That's one of the reasons I'm making this letter series. I'd like to make an alphabet book. But it's just not ready yet. So I'll show you a few other things that I've worked on that I can work on even though I'm dead ass broke. Let's just close this. Okay, so here's one that I can open. So this is the letter L. Now you saw the letter H, and now here's the letter L. This is the simplified case set. So I'm going to turn off the upper layer. Here's the basic, or excuse me, here's the complicated letter L drawing. And here's the basic outline. So what I want to do is make an alphabet book that has the complicated letter and then the simplified letter. And then what I want to do is send them to Autodesk and extrude them, which means putting them into a Z-axis. So this is birubric. I want to convert it to trirubric by extruding the file in Autodesk. So I have to convert everything over. I also have to convert the file in Premiere using an expansion program. It's a really complicated thing that I'm not going to get into, but I want to expand the file in Illustrator, send the expanded file to Autodesk, extrude it through Autodesk into a three-dimensional form, and then 3D print these. But I don't actually want to 3D print them. I want to laser etch them. I was experimenting with 3D printing, and I don't think that's going to work because the only way to get a really high-resolution 3D print is with resin. And I spent a lot of time looking into 3D printing because I want to get into 3D printing because I have a hobby. I play Warhammer 40,000, and I like 3D printing custom parts for my Space Marines. And I want to eventually get into making custom 3D printed parts and maybe selling those, selling STLs and actually selling printed parts. That's something that I would like to do with my artwork, but that's like way in the future. So I spent a lot of time looking into the Ender printers and the Cura printers and so forth, and they're not practical for this project. The printing bed is very small, the printing nozzle is very small, and it takes a very long time to make a small object, and they're not designed for mass producing industrial sort of grade production workloads. They're not. You'll destroy the machine. So the only alternative is to get into laser etching, which is super expensive, and I can't really do that. But I can learn how the formatting works, and I can export all of my items to a laser etching shop. So what I would like to do in the future is buy aluminum cutouts of these letters. So there would be an aluminum cutout of this letter here, and it's very simple. It's just the solid outline. And that's, I'm calling that the footprint letter. It's just the basic footprint. Then I have to digitize this version and send this version, again, expand it in Illustrator, send it to Autodesk, extrude it through Autodesk, get it into a three-dimensional format, and then send it to a laser cutting facility to have all these crazy little details, you know, these lines and Like this thing's nuts. I drew this and I have no idea how I could 3D print this without it snapping. Resin is super fragile. It's like more fragile than glass. It just snaps. Plus, it cures, so while it's hot, it's soft. So during the curing process, it can warp and bend. It's totally not going to work for something like this. But using metal and etching into metal will work. So I would like to move into metal etching using a CNC machine. And that's the reason why I have to use Autodesk, because Autodesk outputs into the formats, the file formats that CNC machines actually use. So you can't actually use the cheaper programs. One, because they're just kind of unreliable. You're editing on an online server and it's just very slow and tedious working with it. But two, the file format doesn't really come out the right way for CNC machines, at least from what I've seen. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, great. I'll be happy to be wrong because it means I get to save some money. But from what I can tell, that's not the case. So I've got a friend who works for Apple, and he is a machinist at Apple, and he works in Autodesk. He also does SoftWorks, which is another one of those sort of CAD 3D design programs. And he makes custom parts for Apple, this friend of mine. And he's kind of given me some advice on how to do this. And I'm going to kind of follow that sort of direction. But what it means is, in the meantime, I can't print anything because I can't afford to. So I'm stuck in this weird state of limbo where I've got a ton of stuff totally ready to go, and I just have to sit on my hands and wait because I just don't have the money or the time to spend formatting it and buying the software that I need to format it. And even if I had the money, I just don't have the time because of school. So I'm in this weird spot where I have to just sit tight. It's hurry up and wait. But that's not the end of the world, because what I'm trying to do is just stay super productive and focused so that while I can't print anything right now, and while I can't do anything about the fact that I can't do anything right now, I can just in general stay productive and in general stay focused and not get, distracted or frustrated or bitter about my circumstances, because it's really not productive to get all pissed off about things that I really have no control over. It sucks, that school is taking longer than expected. I am trying to basically get 3 diplomas at once. I'm getting my O&M, my TVI, and then my master's all at once, which is, oh my God, a fuck ton of work. Oh my God, it is a lot of fucking work. But in the next 2 years or so, I will be done. So what I'm going to do in the next 2 years is just draw a bunch of shit. You're going to see me draw stuff. You're going to see me draw and explain how it is I'm coming up with these ideas, how it is I'm doing everything, but I'm just not able to print anything. I don't have the time to sit down and record myself doing music. I really don't have time for that. I am still studying jazz. I am still, trying to start my death metal band. I'm still chasing the dream, but it's just really shitty right now. And then, some stuff happened with my family. As of late, my grandmother passed. She was very ill for a very long time, and her passing was actually very important because she was in a lot of pain. So there's a lot going on with my family, dealing with that. I've had some health stuff going on, where my health was very touch and go for a minute. They thought I was going to be very sick because of some medical tests that they had done. I'm okay. I just have to be very careful and watch my diet, but I'm okay. Um, and it just a lot of things have happened all at once. You know, they say when it rains, it pours, and holy shit, they weren't kidding when they said that. So here's my advice to anybody trying to do this kind of stuff. One, stay patient. Two, stay hungry. Three, don't let external factors stop you. If you can do something, do that. Whatever it may be, however small it may be, if you can do something productive to move the situation forward, do that, because any jackass can sit around and mope and blame everyone else, but it takes a lot of dedication and commitment to stick to the cause, to not blame other people, and to just kind of accept things for what they are and find a way to move forward. Um, there are some people that I'm very, very angry with because they set me back in my academic progress because they were playing petty party politics and were acting in a cliquey kind of fashion. And they set me back in my degree progress. I was actually very angry about that for a very long time. Um, but it's okay because I'm going to prove that those people who lied about me were wrong. But if I get angry about it and I start screaming and shouting and pointing fingers and you did this and blah, 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 that only makes me look like a jackass. And that doesn't help my case. It doesn't. Um, so, some shitty things have happened. I've had some people lie about me. I had a pretty bad health crisis. One of my family members got arrested, and then that's a whole can of worms that I'm not going to get into. Um, then, my grandmother died. There's been infighting in my family over the estate and my grandmother dying, and the estate being in a mess, and then my grandmother having a bunch of debt, and then the family has to settle that debt. I mentioned my health stuff. There was a lot going on with that, and it was very, very scary for a brief period of time. I'm okay. Again, I'll say that I'm okay, but you know, so when shit hits the fan, the best thing you can do is stay calm. And there's a lot of times where I want to yell at the people who are in the room around me because they're acting incredibly selfish and they have no idea what it is I'm going through, but they're arrogant and self-righteous enough to make judgments about me when they have no fucking idea what it is I'm dealing with. And they go around and play the victim card, and it really goddamn pisses me off. But I don't think there's anything that can be productive from yelling at those people, even if they deserve it. Even if they really are acting like fucking jackasses. And believe me, the people I'm talking about are jackasses. There's nothing productive to be gained from yelling at them. There isn't. So the fact of the matter is, I'm frustrated because a lot of the things that I want to do, I can't do. I'm frustrated because all these other things that are circumstantial have happened, and it means that I have to be more mindful of the fact that I have a very short thread of patience right now, and I can't snap at other people, especially because of these accusations that were going around. So the best thing to do is to keep a cool head, because if you snap, all you do is prove those assholes right. You can't snap, you can't get angry, you can't yell at someone, you can't tell them you don't know me, blah blah blah. You can't do that. It just burns other people out. And the fact of the matter is, if you stay calm and you don't snap, eventually things will come around back in your favor, because you will prove to people that you have a calm, level head. You will prove to them that nothing gets under your skin, no matter what the fuck it is. And you will prove to them that the other people are a bunch of lying shit talkers. And the only way to prove that is to walk the walk. And that means shutting up and doing your work, which sucks, especially when other people are talking shit and you want to just grab them by the throat. But you can't do that. Yeah, so you can't get angry and you can't snap. You just can't. So if you feel pissed off, if you feel like people are fucking with you, if you feel like things are unfair, odds are that's the case. Odds are you're probably right. Odds are, you know, here's this letter, the letter L. I spent 100 hours drawing this. Or actually, that's a mistake. I spent 20 hours drawing this. But this letter H, here we go. I spent 100 hours drawing this in the computer. Between drawing it in real life and converting it into the computer, this damn near took 100 hours. Because it's a shitload of work. It looks simple, but it's not. Every individual shape is pretty much handmade. There's a little bit of copy-paste, but even when I copy and paste an image or a shape, it's to get the general shape down, and then I tweak it by hand. And I literally mean by hand because this is my stylus right here. I do it all by hand. It's not. There's a thing in Adobe Illustrator where you can go shape, and you can convert something to a shape. You can turn off this outer layer, turn on the under layer. So this is the original drawing. I'll let you see the difference. One's significantly bigger than the other, but also it's significantly more detailed. So this was the hand drawing, and I'll do this. Okay, I've got the whole thing selected. Oh, it's acting up. You're falling off the area. Transformation. Shit. It's one of those bugs. Okay. So if you get a bug where it says there's something off of the artboard, what it's saying is that there's probably a hidden artifact somewhere on the artboard that's preventing you from moving it. There's a couple of things you can do. You can do what I just did, zoom out and trace everything over and hit delete. And there's probably an artifact hidden somewhere on the outside of the artboard. And if you move the art off of the original location, that artifact will move off the artboard and it will cause an error. That's why that error was popping up. So you just zoom out, you select the area around, and you just hit delete, and you delete anything that may be there, and then it no longer gives you the error code. That's how I was able to now move it off. So anyway, you can compare the two letters. This one is significantly more detailed. This thing took about 30 hours to draw because there were multiple drafts, and then converting it into this form probably took between 50 and 70 hours. So the combined time is 100 hours. Each letter takes 100 hours. Some of them have taken closer to 200. The letter A I did 5 or 6 times over again. I had to redo the letter, what was the one that I did where I had to completely redo it? It was the ClaritY. I think it was the let me find the one that I did a while ago. I did one a while ago that took me a long ass time to make, and I mean like 250 hours. The V. The V took a frickin' ridiculous amount of time. Here it is. Yeah, version 3. I had to do this 3 times. You can tell that that's a laughter of pain. This took 250 goddamn hours. This thing was a nightmare. This is the first letter I did. The first one I did took 250 hours. I've now gotten into the point where I'm doing it in 100 hours, and that's still a fucking shitload of time. It's a goddamn nightmare. But yeah, so I've converted like 10 different letters, which is 1,000 hours worth of work easily. But that doesn't include the fact that the hand-drawn letters I've done, I've got 22 out of the 26 letters of the alphabet done. So there's like 4 more to go that I still need to draw by hand that I may be working on this week during spring break. And then I have to convert those letters to digital. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to really be able to print anything for a while. I might be able to do a small print in June, but I'm not going to be able to do anything for a long time. And I want to work on the Pharaoh painting. I finished the Pharaoh artwork. I want to work on the clarity painting. I have the clarity artwork finished, but I have to set up an area to paint, and I don't have any space to paint right now. There's literally no space in my house to paint. So if I want to do a painting, I have to like temporarily pack everything up to make this one space. And I can't do that because that space is being used by all my school supplies and my study materials. So I may not be able to actually have space to paint for the next 2 years, which is super frustrating. And I obviously don't have space to bust out my airbrush because that's what I use to paint, my Space Marines with. So I've got a bunch of Space Marines that I'd like to paint, but I can't because I don't have any goddamn space. And it just sucks right now. A lot of things kind of just suck right now. One of the things the doctor told me is I have to cut out all the beer. I don't drink that much, but I can't drink beer anymore. I basically can't have sugar anymore, so I'm cutting sugar out of my diet. I have to go on like a keto-based diet, I think, and I have to go to a nutritionist, which is like really expensive, to help me with my diet, because of that health scare that I had. And it's just no fun because I have to do all of this extra work for this thing that I really don't want to have to do. So I have to change my diet. I can't have bread anymore. So it's like sandwiches, hamburgers, hot dogs, pretzels, crackers. In terms of sugar, I have to cut OJ out. I have to cut out all juices. I'm supposed to cut out all soda. Beer, of course, wine. I don't drink wine, but beer and liquor are out. And I don't drink that much anyway, but it sucks because, Super Bowl Sunday came by and I could have half a beer and I ended up pouring it out because I felt guilty because of, my health. And the doctor said, you gotta consider changing your diet. And like, what am I gonna do? Ignore him and just keep eating what I want to eat? Like, I can't do that. So, a lot of things have been pretty shitty lately, but it doesn't fucking matter because you kind of just put your head down and tank through it. And, I've had a bunch of people lying about me, which really sucks. They lied about me at the department, and that really pisses me off. But I can't do anything about it except do the work and prove that they're wrong. So, where is this going? I started doing this artwork on my own. No intention of having any bigger designs for it. But because I'm in the art or in the visually impaired sort of field, it turns out that this artwork is really closely related to visual impairment because I can 3D print everything. So, or laser etch really is what it's going to be. I'm going to laser etch this out of aluminum. I just have to make sure that they brush the aluminum down so that the edges aren't sharp and doesn't cut anybody. So I have to spend a lot of money to get the aluminum cut and then brushed, which is super expensive. I might have them do it out of steel because even though steel is harder, you can brush it down, whereas aluminum tends to tear because it's so light and thin. So I'll probably be making these actually out of steel rather than aluminum. it's funny. It's more expensive to cut steel than it is to cut aluminum, but the material costs of aluminum are higher, so I think it'll be a net wash in terms of costs. But basically, I'll be able to make three-dimensional art, and then, typically sighted people can obviously look at my art, but blind people can't. So what will happen is if I can laser etch everything, I can make art for blind people where they can actually physically hold a letter that I make and they can trace around the spirals and the little shapes that are inside the letter. And I'll have the simplified case set, which is like that letter L I showed you earlier over here. I'll have the simplified case set, and then I'll have, the detailed case set. And then I have scans of the original artwork, and I'll have the originals on display next to the final so people can look at my drafts and see how I went from the concept to the final product. And they'll see like how much things evolve and develop and the steps that I go through, because I really want people to see my workflow. Because one of the things that I experienced as a kid was a sense of helplessness when I looked at other people's art. If I looked at a Frank Frazetta painting, well, I didn't really like Frank Frazetta as a kid. If I looked at a Brom painting, that's a good one. Gerald Brom, B-R-O-M, look him up. When I looked at a Brom painting on a magic card, it was magic. Like, literally, to me, it was like, how the fuck does he do this? Like, Lutella, Keldon Overseer. That's a card that, like, to this day, I still look at it and I'm like, holy shit, that's insane. Or, like, Desolation Angel. This is, like, Lutella's from the old set Prophecy, and Desolation Angel is from the set Apocalypse. And Prophecy is from, I think, 1999, and Apocalypse is from 2000. So you got to understand, like, I was 8 or 9 years old when I saw these cards, 8 or 9. And I think actually Apocalypse might be from 2001, because that's the set that's from the Invasion block. But it's way old school Magic the Gathering cards. I mean, I was born in 91, and I got into Magic in 1999 during the Urza's Saga, Legacy, Destiny, Urza's Destiny, the last block of the Urza's Saga. It's the one with the little beaker on it. And I remember looking at those cards, Phyrexian Negator by Kevin Walker, Yawgmoth's, what is it? Not Yawgmoth's Bidding, or no, not Yawgmoth's Bidding. It's Yawgmoth's Will and Yawgmoth's Bargain. That's what it is. Yawgmoth's Will from Urza's Saga, the one with the 2 gears, and then Yawgmoth's Bargain, which was also from Legacy. And just the artwork just completely blew my mind. It was something that, like, I looked at and I was like, how the hell do these people do this? Like how does somebody draw something like that? And I never really got lessons as a kid. I tried taking lessons, and I had 2 different art teachers, and both of them screamed at me. I technically had a third art teacher. Her name was Lakshmi. She was really nice, but she was Indian, and she moved back to India to adopt a child because she was barren. And so she wanted to have another child, and she couldn't because of her health issues, and so she went back to India to adopt. She was the only art teacher I ever had who didn't yell at me. Every other art teacher I had would just scream and tell me to get the fuck out of their studio. And I hated it. Because I loved art, but I hated those people. I hated how pretentious and obnoxious they were. They didn't like any of the stuff that I liked. They were all older adults who were just really asinine. And they were all older women who just didn't know how to talk to a young man. I had a lot of energy. And, like, yes, I was a pain in the ass as a kid, but, yelling at someone isn't going to teach them anything. So yeah, I had 3 teachers. 2 of them were dog shit. One of them was nice, but she had to move away after 6 months, which was really unfortunate. So I never had art lessons as a kid. So I spent my whole youth looking at these pictures and not knowing how to draw them. But I wanted to draw. But I had no guidance. I had no lessons. I had no one teaching me anything. The first time I ever got art lessons, I was 27 years old. I mean, I'm 30 now. I didn't get any fucking help as a kid. And it sucks, but that was just how it was. But I taught myself anyway. That's how I taught myself how to do this line work. This is line work. The style of art is about line confidence, the ability you have to convey the confidence of your line work is what determines the quality of the artwork. So this style of art, it's referred to as line confidence, and that's what I learned how to do. And a lot of people look at this graphic kind of art and it looks like tattoo art because it's flat and it's very two-dimensional. And I never had anyone instruct me on how to take what I was doing to the next level and get into three-dimensional art. I just didn't have it. And it's because no one gave a shit about me as a kid, to be quite frank. A lot of my female teachers preferred female students, to be perfectly honest with you. And I didn't have really too many male role models. I was kind of just thrown to the wolves as a kid. My education was very rough and I had to figure things out on my own. So, it's ironic that I went into education because my experiences with it were so shitty. And yet here I am, becoming a teacher. And my hope is that I can be a better teacher than the people that I had as teachers. Because the people I had as teachers were just assholes and they just didn't give a shit. A lot of the women were assholes and they just didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want to deal with me. And then I had some male teachers who were just very, very angry and aggressive. And I could tell that they didn't like their job or want to be there, and they would also yell at me. So, I persisted in my interest in art. I persisted in making stuff, teaching myself, and not. It's really a story about not listening to other people, especially when they are unhappy, miserable, sort of misanthropic, nihilistic adults. I didn't really listen to them because I just didn't see a reason to listen to them because they were so obviously miserable. It's like, why would I listen to someone who's so obviously miserable in their life? And the answer is you shouldn't. So I didn't, and I'm grateful for that because if I listened to them, I wouldn't have this art. As unfortunate as it is that I'm frustrated with the fact that I don't know how to human figure draw, which is something that I really, really, really want to learn how to do. I've only taken 2 classes in human figure drawing, and you can spend a lifetime studying it. And I want to go back and take more classes, but again, that's time and money that I just don't have right now. But I'm hoping that I'll get to the point where I can take those art lessons and I can take time off from working all the damn time and working on other people's projects, working on other people's stuff, and do what I want to do for myself. I'd like to paint my Space Marines, which I've had on a fucking shelf since 2018, and some of them I've had since 2004 when I was a little kid. And they're unpainted because I've never had the space to sit down and paint. I finally got an airbrush, but I can't use it because, getting an air compressor and getting the space set up for it is out of the question while I live at my parents' house. So yeah, I haven't published anything in a long time. This video is going on to 53 minutes long, and I'm just going to upload it. I'm not going to worry about cutting it. I know it's very long, but it's just where I'm at. I have to get my work done and I have to just get the next thing done. But if it works out and everything goes the way I want, I might be able to make some die cut stickers, which would be really exciting because I've never made die cut stickers before. So I'm hoping to do that, make a new sticker for my company, and just give out a shitload of stickers to everyone I know. It's like $700 for like 2,000 of these die cut stickers, which is roughly speaking what it should cost. And I'm just going to buy 2,000 stickers and just give them away. So I'm going to spend $700 just to give it away. But, it's worthwhile because I'll be putting my brand and my logo out for other people to see. And, maybe I won't be able to publish a shirt for a long time. Maybe I'll be able to do a sticker, maybe a poster. Um, but at least people will see that I'm still making stuff. I still exist. I'm still planning on making stuff. I'm just in this awkward spot where I can't do anything because, life is kind of fucking with me and I have to just deal with it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. If you relate to anything I've said in terms of like being frustrated and feeling stifled and feeling like you could do more, but circumstances are stopping you, just understand that in time things will change and people will eventually recognize how valuable you are because you'll make a difference and then you'll leave because you have something else to do, and then they'll recognize once you're gone how much of a difference you made. I quit my job in October and I've been doing observation and occasional substitute assignments at my old work site, and everyone is like, "Oh, you got to come back. You got to come back." And it's like, "Yeah, when you guys decide to pay me. My old job, they fucked me out of 5 grand. It was 3,000 from one contract and 2,000 from another contract. They didn't pay me the fair rate. And I can sit there and complain about it, or I can just say, yeah, I'm kind of busy right now. I'll come back when I have time, but I really appreciate you guys asking me to come back. And, I'd rather do that, keep the door open, than burn any bridges. And, you know, I've been fucked out of money plenty of times. At my old job, when I worked in the music industry, I got fucked out of about 5, maybe 6 grand. And then as a teacher, I got fucked out of 5 grand. And, I can sit there and complain about losing $10,000 over the span of maybe 5, 6 years, which, it's like basically 2 grand a year that I missed out on. But it's really not the end of the world because, long story short, I'm going to make more money getting this credential done and just getting the schoolwork done and getting, my degree finished. And if people want me to work for them, they're going to have to fucking pay me, and they're going to have to pay me on time, and they're not going to be able to yank me around and bullshit me. And the fact of the matter is, if someone does yank me around, I'll be able to tell them to fuck off, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And if you feel frustrated, if you're a young artist or a young musician or a young writer and you're trying to get yourself established, understand no one's going to give you a handout. You got to work for it. And that oftentimes means making lots of sacrifices. I went 10 years making less than 20 grand a year. I earned less than 20 grand a year for like 10 years in a row, and in some cases I made less than 5 grand a year because I was just dead ass broke, just doing whatever it is I could to get by, barely able to eat. I spent some time in my car during my later years in my undergrad. I was sleeping in my car, bumming around, sleeping on couches. It was tough, but I crawled out of the gutter of San Jose, and now I'm on the other side of it, and I'm real close. And those people tried to throw me out of the department, but I'm still here. They couldn't get rid of me. And I'm going to get another 4.0. My previous GPA was a 4.0. Those people who lied about me, they tried to put me on academic probation and tank my GPA. But it didn't work, so I'm still in the program. They couldn't kick me out. And my goal this semester is to get another 4.0. There's an old saying, kill them with kindness, but people forget the other half of that saying. The other half of that saying is, if you can't kill them with kindness, torture them with success. And that's my advice for you. If you have an enemy who's trying to stop you, torture them with your success. Be so successful that everyone has to recognize how hard it is you work and how valuable it is you are to the team, and then no one will be able to talk shit about you. And that's how you beat them. Go over the top. Don't beat your head trying to knock down the wall. Don't go head first into the wall. You'll give yourself a headache. Go over the top and you'll be unstoppable. I'm Keenan Fry. This is the Acid Drip. And remember, despite exhaustion, always dream. Thank you for listening.